Most of the world's most interesting architectural structures were built for religious purposes, from the pyramids of Egypt to the great Gothic cathedrals of Europe. Architects have always found the design of religious structures to not only be spiritually rewarding, but outlets for creative design and innovation. Hi, I'm Bob Kesar, architect with the City of Louisville. And in this episode of Renovate Louisville, we'll take a look at some of Louisville's many unique and diverse religious structures.
Places of worship historically have been the center of communities. The immigration waves of the 19th and 20th centuries found many individuals calling the United States of America their new home. Like birds of a feather, many of these new citizens found themselves settling down in places that felt like home. This often meant finding a community that was predominantly populated by those who shared a common background. Though it was not always determined by country of origin, districts in Louisville such as Paristown Point and Germantown got their names because of the immigrants who settled there.
Religious architecture is distinct because it identifies a given neighborhood in many cases. For instance, an Irish neighborhood would have an Irish Catholic church. A German neighborhood might have a German Catholic church. The same is true for Jewish neighborhoods that would have a Jewish synagogue.
Longing for familiarity, the churches and temples of these districts became centers of communities.
Cathedrals and ecclesiastical architecture in general, church architecture, is really unique in that the church building really serves as a form of signage. It really identifies the use of the building, the intended use of the building as a place of worship to the general public, and this is conveyed through the architecture of the structure.
Today, there are so many churches, temples, mosques, and synagogues in Louisville, it is nearly impossible to document them all. Places of worship can exist anywhere, with new takes on old religions sprouting up almost every day. Some of these locations are easily identifiable, such as the Golden Dome of the Mosque on Westport Road and the Cathedral of the Assumption downtown. Others fit more seamlessly into the fabric of different neighborhoods. Regardless of their size, it is impossible to ignore how these places of religious worship have become fixtures in communities all over Jefferson County. Louisville is lucky to have these structures, some of which are extremely old and constructed in ways that might not be possible today, simply because the knowledge and skill needed to create these structures no longer exists. Others are more contemporary, trading masonry for transparent glass windows. The intent is the same. Regardless of which religion is housed inside, they exist for the followers to have sanctuary to express their faith. Louisville is a crossroads for not only the historic cultures which founded the city, but also a crossroads of America's melting pot. It is no surprise that Jefferson County has many diverse architectural design styles peppered throughout the community.
Churches that were built in America, by and large, reflected the congregations for which they were built. Churches and religious structures in general were built to evoke feelings of the homeland. You had an immigrant population that felt comfortable by worshiping in a space that reflected their own historic beginnings and their own ethnic heritage.
Christianity, in various forms, is heavily represented. European immigrants brought their styles and influences across the ocean as they left their homelands to make a new life in the youthful United States of America. Together, they brought Gothic, Georgian, and Greek revivalism and set to work recreating what they were used to seeing in their previous home countries. It can be easy to identify these different styles if you know what to look for.
The Cathedral of the Assumption was built in 1849 in the Gothic Revival style. It's flanked by a parish rectory and by a parish school. In the 1850s, the second St. Louis church was constructed on the east side of 5th Street on the site that is the location of the present-day Cathedral of the Assumption. The old St. Louis Church was used until the last possible minute, and the walls of the new cathedral were already beginning to surround the old building when it was finally abandoned and demolished.
If a structure uses flying buttresses, vaulted ceilings, pointed and arched openings and windows, chances are you're looking at a church using Gothic influences.
Broadway Temple AME Church, which is at the northwest corner of Broadway and 13th Street, just on the west side of downtown Louisville, is just a marvelous classical revival church. It really catches your eye as you're driving west on Broadway. It has a golden dome about it. It has columns in the front there. It has stained glass. It was designed by one of my favorite architects. His name was Samuel Plato. He was an African-American architect originally from Alabama. Well, this church is not as tall as other type churches. The scale of it, though, it appears that Plato, knowing that he could not build a very tall church, took the scale and downsized it a bit so that he tried to get as much verticality as he could within the budget that he had, if you will. We call it classical revival because it's a mixture of a whole host of styles and trends. Broadway Temple opened in 1915, and at that time you had a lot of changing of architectural styles in America. He has Greek revival and Gothic revival, some of this within this church, and some other trends happening. So when you can't exactly pinpoint the style of the church, we call it classical revival because it incorporates a lot of those little details that belong to a variety of other styles.
These styles are simply a few of the many architectural styles that exist in Louisville. Keeping true to the nature of America as a melting pot and Louisville as a crossroads, influential styles of architecture from Europe, Asia, and the Middle East can be found here. Temple Shalom, a synagogue in eastern Jefferson County, draws inspiration from the city of Jerusalem.
Temple Shalom, this was founded in November 1976. We moved into this particular building, which is our first full-time home, on the 1st of August, 1989. The temple was designed by a local architect, Gerald Barron, and Mr. Barron's vision was from an ancient synagogue in the old city of Jerusalem, the Yeshurun Synagogue. We see replicated above our head in the sanctuary and several other times in the architecture of the building, this arch. It's known as a Jerusalem arch. The exterior building materials are a split-faced, rough-hewn concrete block that was shaded and textured to approximate Jerusalem stone. Most of the buildings in the city of Jerusalem are made from this stone. And the amazing thing about Jerusalem stone is when the sun casts light on it, the buildings seem to absolutely glow. You also see in our windows the Star of David, known as the Magen David, the Shield of David. This is really a rather contemporaneous Jewish symbols as symbols go. David probably didn't ever see one, and if he did, he didn't relate it to his own personage. The most important aspect of any synagogue is the Ark, because inside the Holy Ark are Torah scrolls, handwritten Hebrew scrolls containing the 5 books of Moses. Well, of course, the focal point is the Ark. Above the Ark, you see what we call in Hebrew a ner tamid, an eternal light. And this eternal light, once again, a Barry Gallus metal sculpture. It depicts the burning bush from the book of Exodus, but also it's shaped like the Hebrew letter Shin, which is the first letter in the word shalom. And of course, shalom is that all-purpose Hebrew word meaning hello, goodbye, but most of all, peace.
Another architectural gem in South Louisville is Tuan Temple, a Buddhist worship site. Renovated to reflect more traditional Buddhist architecture, Tuan Temple pays homage to the Buddhist religion.
And here in Vietnam, in tradition Vietnam, our culture of Vietnam, when unborn Vietnamese people, they follow Buddhism. That reason when they come here, they refugee unborn Vietnam community here, that they want to keep their religion, they build a temple. The temple started beginning at 1996, and when people every day grew up more, and they want a good temple, and we remodeling or we up again. It's 2010. That now we have the new temple now.
Temple is very similar to temples that you would see in Vietnam. We are standing in what we call the Buddha Hall, and this is where we give the teachings on Sundays. And then also where people come daily to meditate and to pray. And then also the temple here, like temples in Vietnam, have living quarters for the monks to live at. And we practice daily here at the temple and continue to meditate and pray on the teachings of our teacher, the Buddha.
And we have got in the center, on the roof here, we have the cycle.
Yeah, it's the Dharma wheel.
Yeah, Dharma wheel.
It represents the teachings of the Buddha. That after the Buddha gave his teachings, it went through several cycles to the teachings that we have today. Yeah, the Buddha Hall is always, even in large temples, the Dharma Hall or the Buddha Hall is always in the middle, because that's where the teachings and the practice occurs. And so that's the purpose of coming to the temple, is to come to practice and come to hear the teachings of the Buddha. So they always put the practice space, the Dharma Hall, in the middle, because it's the reason we come to the temple. And through transforming our mind, we're able to achieve enlightenment. So a lot of the things you see in a temple represent calmness and serenity, so that we can come and practice and not be distracted by the desires in life that distract us from our process of achieving enlightenment. Okay, you're in the patriarch room of the temple. This is where we come and pay remembrance to our teachers in our lineage. So basically, these are the teachers that pass the teachings down to the ones that we have today. Many temples do have this similar setup over in Asia.
Another temple only come to chanting and they come back their home and they eat their family. But in here we have like family here. That reason we chanting and we have food together, and when we share some story, something like that.
Places of worship can not only be seen as a dedication to one's faith, but also as a visual testament to how beautifully creative mankind can be.
Creation isn't just something that happened in the book of Genesis. God's creation in the universe is ongoing.
If an architect can get into church design, it is one of the most rewarding spiritually and aesthetically that you can do.
Churches, in a general sense, are really functional pieces of art. They're the focal points for the neighborhood, but they're also very beautiful, often elaborately decorated or carved pieces of architecture or art.
Religious architecture, again, pardon the pun, it's a spiritual experience and a spatial experience, because you really can dramatize the detailing and the space as the congregation enters into one of these religious buildings.
For that reason alone, they certainly serve as the focal point for a given neighborhood, and they are an element of the urban fabric that really begs to be appreciated and to be really celebrated.
From the grandest Gothic cathedrals to someone's living room, each provides a space to express one's beliefs and brings the community together.
As we have seen, religious structures can be ornate, detailed, or show freedom in design expression. However, the religious meaning is far more important than the physical structures themselves. Thanks for joining us on this urban adventure, and we'll look to see you next time on Renovate Louisville.